What are you going to do when there's a power outage? Living through a couple power outages myself, we're going to learn today which two of the listed items are going to be the most valuable. So stick with us as we go through a list of the essential items that are must-haves if there is a power outage. Well, the storms are hammering the US, and I wanted to talk today about just 5 essentials to survive long-term power outage. Let's just start with the number one, the food. Instantly, if you lose power, your fridge, your freezer is now dead. What the best thing here is you're probably going to want to keep your fridge and freezers closed, not open them and shut them and open them and shut them, because then you're just going to get all that cold just kind of losing out. So make sure that you keep your fridge closed for as long as you can. Into some non-perishable foods, dehydrated foods, and these are some things, again, if you prepare ahead of time, you're going to have some dehydrated foods, whether it's bags, cans, also fruits and vegetables. Make sure you have some of those handy as well. Next thing, water. I think we need to talk about what you should have for just a stockpile of water. It's good to have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. So whether you got bottled water in your 1 liter bottles, gallon jugs, just make sure that you have enough water for your entire family for a given period of time. Now, also remember with water, if you're living in the urban areas, without electrical power, the water is going to become undrinkable pretty fast, because that water is going through the water treatment facility, and those, again, the power's out, so you're not going to be able to get the water treatment. So you're going to need purification, whether that's going to come through, like we have a Berkey filter. It just gravity fed through some charcoal filters. That's a good solution for water for purification. There's tablets, again, bottled water. With that, we want to talk about clothing. Obviously, you're going to want to have your hands warm, your head warm, your feet warm, your hands, feet, and head, hats, gloves, socks, and don't forget blankets. Stock up on blankets whenever you can. Get some closets filled up with, whether it's garage sale blankets, relatives blankets. Just have a stash supply, because for insulation purposes, that's a great way just to stay warm. Even containing some of your heat to smaller rooms, whether it's in a building of your house, like maybe the kitchen. If you have plastic blankets, and you can just drape these down and close off a smaller section of the house, so you're not trying to heat the whole area of the house. I know plastic and just tape, painter's tape, works good just to again make a barrier. Now for heating purposes, again, if without electricity, how are you going to heat and stay warm? A couple different options are, if you have a propane stove, a cook stove, obviously you can turn on that propane stove, and that's going to generate a lot of heat in that kitchen area. You can also candles. Now, something with candles is pretty neat for some long-term heat, is whether it's a tea light, those small flat lights, is turning them on and lighting them, and putting like a terracotta pot, like a gardening, those orange terracotta. I'll put a picture here in the video. Here it is. But just place that over the top of the candle. That's going to be a heat absorber. So what happens is, as your candle's running, it's just not dissipating out into the air. It's actually being a heat sink into that clay pot. And that's going to, again, radiate some heat out for long periods of time. Also, if you do have, your pantry, and you got Crisco, shortening, you can put a wick in that, light it, and that's going to burn for long periods of time. It's just off of your Crisco oil and the greasing the cans there. Don't forget the wood stove. If you got means to just heat yourself with wood fire, wood stove, keeping that, some logs, burning some, cardboard, burning some sticks, whatever you have handy. Hopefully you have some wood supply to keep your wood stove going. Also, you can consider running a generator. Now, what the problem with the generator is, you're going to need, long-term fuel supply every time you run the generator. So, but again, I do believe to have a backup generator is going to be very beneficial for your long-term power outages. Is then you can, you can run small heaters. You can get the fridge going again. You can get the freezers going again, and you can get some of these essentials back up and running for a short time. But again, you're going to need fuel on these, and some of these generators, they do have dual fuel, whether you can run propane, you can run unleaded gas. So these are some options, and there's also the new alternative energy, whether it's a solar panel generator. Those are some things that with an inverter and a solar panel generator, you can just feed off your battery banks as well. So I guess if you've seen the propane buddy heaters, a lot of people use these in ice fishing, in their garages, but you can get different size buddy heaters with a small propane, those green small tanks, just screw them in. And those are getting out of supply in some of the local hardware stores, even in the bigger, larger discount places. Those are getting in high demand, so prepare yourself and stock up with some propane tanks. It's a good thing to have a first aid kit, because if you're out of power and you're not going to be traveling, whether you have a kit, whether it's bandages, ointments, and also some good books. I mean, even here in the library behind me, if you're interested here, comment below, some of the medical books which are good to have on hand, just for diagrams, descriptions, terms, medicines, and that's another thing is medications, prescriptions. Prepare and make a list of some of these things we're talking about, so you can prepare in the times that you do have a storm, something that's going to again take the power out. It's nice to have some preparation. I mean, these people now that we hear about in southern U.S., there's millions and millions of people that are without power, that are struggling with, one, staying warm, two is food, water, and the exact things that we're talking about. So we do want to talk about these things in review. Also, communication in the event of power outages and no electricity. How are you going to communicate? Well, one, with the communication, you're probably instantly going to go to your cell phone, your mobile phone. The problem with if the event of a loss of power and there's no cell phone service, to a point of these cell phone towers have a battery backup, yes, but they're going to be up to about only 4 to 5 hours until that battery bank goes dead on the cell phone towers. So another thing is maybe a ham radio. I have gotten a ham radio license in the past 10 years, and I do have that as also a solution. So what you can do is you can get a mobile handheld ham radio, or even a one that you can set up as a kind of a base unit in your kitchen or in your garage. And again, with the ham radio operators, a lot of them have already set up different situations and scenarios for power outages. So they have established some of the towers and some of these scenarios to have operation fully up and ready when there is a power outage in the ham radio community. Again, another thing for communication is just being able to listen in, whether it's an AM, FM radio. AM, FM radio, you're going to be able to pick up stations, some long distances. Whether it's a shortwave radio, AM, FM radio, these are some good things to prepare to have on hand. So I just want to again talk about a few of these things. Pets too, supplies for preparation in the event that you can't get out or you're going to be in a power outage. Is how am I going to be able to feed my pets. So, again, we're talking about food preparation and preservation. Make some things for your pets as well as your children. Maybe you have toddlers or babies and you need to get formula and food for them. Again, you should have, again, some supplies ready for your kids as well. I think another thing that maybe people forget about is just having your car fueled up, because in the event of a power outage, I have a heat source, transportation source, even power source, as you got a 12 volt, plug-in in your car. If you put them in the old cigarette lighters, and you can get DC 12 volt power, whether that's, you can get 12 volt refrigerators, you can get 12 volt car chargers for your computer, your laptop, if you need to do some instant communication that way. Heaters as well, you can get 12 volt heaters. So don't forget about your car in the scenarios of a power outage, and 12 volt supplies there. So again, as we see the storms hammering across the U.S., I know just even here in the past, I was out of power during the tornado that went through for about a week. So experientially, I know what it's like to not have power in my home, and what we did with the generators and the food, the water, and some of these exact things I'm talking about. Also in the winter times here where we live in, just knowing what it's like to have no power in situations in the extreme cold weather. Again, these are some real life applications that I've experienced and lived through, and that's why I wanted to make this video, share some of these tips. Is what do you do? Again, food and water, very essential. Some of the lighting, maybe the candles you could use for heat sources, but also for lighting, flashlights, batteries. It's nice to have, all the flashlights, some of the, radios, and some of these things that are going to need batteries. Maybe some of the medical devices that you use, whether it's like a sleep apnea device or some type of your breathing devices or some other things. Make sure that you have batteries on hand as well. So I think if you have any questions or comments, if you have your own ideas on here as well, please put in the comments of, hey, think about this or add this to the list. But, here's at least, 5 essentials. Maybe we talked about more, but I think we could narrow this down to at least 5 essentials out of this list that would help you survive if there is any type of power outage, whether it's short term or long term. The main big thing is food, shelter, and heat. So let's again consider some of these things. Put in the comments if you are wanting any more information specifically on some of these things that I talked about here in this video. If you like what you're hearing, again, push subscribe here below, and we'll keep growing in our understanding of living out in the country, in the homestead, and helping you prepare as well. I don't care if it's some big storms like a tornado, wind, hurricanes, snowstorms, ice storms. We've also seen just pandemics, biological. It could be even cyber attacks. I don't know. But are you prepared if there's a long-term power outage?